All right, welcome. I am here with Nick Shelton, the author of a new book called An Introvert's Guide to World Domination. I love that title. And then the subtitle, Become a High-Level Marketer, Become a High-Level Networker and Upgrade Your Life. So where I'm coming from this is from the perspective of my YouTube videos and the articles I write, is that I'm very critical of the people that currently have power, and I encourage people to kind of grab their own power. So when I read this, it says an introvert in the title, and I don't really consider myself an introvert, but I still found it super useful for that sort of guide to how to be a better networker and really start yourself towards gaining more power in a sense. Is that what this book is about, or am I kind of mischaracterizing it?
No, that's you got it exactly right. I wrote it from an introvert's perspective and to help introverts, but it helps everybody. I've had a lot of people, especially people in sales, that wanted that edge, in building relationships. So there's a lot of people that aren't introverts that have also been getting a lot of value out of the book, and just by knowing some extra things that they can be doing to, build those connections with people and get out there and, level themselves up, I guess you could say.
Yeah. So basically it's about the part that kind of continues to stick out in my head is networking at events. I think that's like the main point of the book, is going out and getting these face-to-face interactions at events. And so a lot of other books might kind of start there and be like, you're at an event, now what do you do? So I guess what I liked about this, and actually, let me just quickly, full disclosure, Nick is a friend of mine. So like some of this is going to seem like I'm maybe praising too much, but I think once we get into this discussion, you almost see that the fact that we're friends is actually more of a testament to the book than it is to say that I'm like mischaracterizing it or anything. But anyway, we'll get back to that. So what I like about this book is that it doesn't start at the event. It actually tells you how to get invited to the events too.
Right.
So
Yeah, that's important because a lot of people think, if I just said, hey, so you're at this event, but then you're missing the point on, well, how do I choose the event? How do I get there? How do I get invited or get there? And so there's a whole part that's very important before the actual being at the event. And
yeah. So can you tell me a little bit about how do you get to that event?
So there are several ways depending on the event. So you're going to want to figure out kind of what your goals are going to be, and that'll let you know what kind of event you're going to be looking for. So there's meetup groups, things like that. But then there's also, if it's going to be high level events, which I focus on a lot in the book because that's what I wanted to do for myself. It was simply, spamming yourself by getting your name on lists of high level things, of high ticket events, so exclusive events. So maybe it might be you get your name on. So Ritz-Carlton, for example, just started doing Ritz-Carlton yacht cruises, and so I was like, oh, so put your name on that list, and then what happens is you're going to get a bunch of emails from Ritz-Carlton yacht adventures, and then other companies that are similar that sell high ticket items, they're going to buy your name off that list, and they're going to send you ads for stuff because people that are interested in that sort of thing are also interested usually in these other sorts of things. And sooner or later, someone's going to invite you to something. And when you get that invite, then you show up. Or even if you don't get an invite, they might say, hey, there's a thing happening, and you'll just know that there's an event. And so it might not be a formal invite event. It just might be, hey, there's a gathering about this where you're going to hear more about something, and you just make sure that you show up at that event.
Yeah. So it starts from the standpoint of you still have to know what you want. It's not like all the work is done for you. You really shouldn't be signing up for stuff that you're not interested in. It still has to be what you want. And you kind of still should have like a plan, should understand yourself enough to know. For instance, so when I read the book, I signed up for a high-end wine list, like a wine investing thing. And that's something I want to do in the future, is invest in wines. I love red wine. I'm actually drinking a little bit right now, but this is definitely not an investor wine. But so I want to get to that point. I would love to go to an event, taste some wine, taste some cheese. Sounds great. And in the future, when I have a proper wine cellar, I can start investing in that wine. So that's, one of the things I took action and signed up for while I was reading this. And I like this idea because it's using the marketing of these big corporations for yourself. It's, when I wrote a review for you, I said it was, like SEO for yourself, basically.
Yeah.
If you put yourself on the right lists, then you're letting them find you, because you want those things to be advertised to you.
Right. So for your example, for the wine, if you put your name on a bunch of different wine things or things related to wine, then naturally you're going to get invites, or at least know when something's taking place about that has to do with wine. And then also for people that might say, I would just like to meet the type of people that are into collector wines, then they could also follow that route as well. And then they'll meet those types of people, but then they might find out, hey, I really like this subject. I really like this investor wine, because maybe they didn't go into it intending to like that. Maybe they just said wanted to be around that clientele. But then once you get into it and you hear the passion of some of these people and like, hey, check out this wine, and you hear the story, then maybe you might say, hey, I suddenly am into this. I didn't know I was, but this is really cool.
So speaking of the people at the event, so you've done this for, I think you said in the book, 20 years or something like that. You've been basically
20 years. Yes, I've been navigating the system for 20 years and getting better each passing year.
So who are the people at these events? I think it could sort of be intimidating from some people's perspective to sign up for high-end Rolex and yachting events, and then show up and be like, I can't fake it till I make it, for instance. What is the feeling when you go to these events? Do you feel, I mean, maybe not now after 20 years, but did you feel out of place at first? What do you do?
Well, I always felt that, because, I'm aware of the imposter syndrome, and sometimes it pops up, but I always remind myself, I'm here, they're here. We all got invited, so if it was an invite thing, I got an invite just like this other person, and not everybody there is some super high roller. There are some regular people there, and I always say, don't try to pretend like you are some kind of big boss if you're not. And if you are, then still don't try to flex on anybody. Just go in there and be yourself, and so you don't have to say, oh yes, I have 8 Rolexes at the house. No, you just go in and say, hey, I came for the sandwiches, and you can just something like that, and you don't have to try to be a big shot. To say, hey, I'm here to learn about watches. And so there's no reason to, so I think the big problem is when people think that they need to act a certain way to get the approval of the people there, but you don't have to. You can just be yourself, hang out, have a good time, enjoy the sandwiches, enjoy the literature and the information about, if, for example, if it was watches, enjoy learning about the watches. And you don't have to, no one's sitting there thinking, I wonder if he really knows about watches. Someone should call security and get him out of here, because I don't think that he can actually afford one of these. No, you're just there, you want to learn. Just like I was at a private jet event recently, and no one said, hey, can you really afford one of these? I actually said, hey, I'm not really in the market, but I said, I really think these are cool, and so I kind of want to be around them. So then when that day comes, I already know what I like. And nobody said, well, until that day comes, get out. No one said that. They just hung out, and people would invite me. They're like, hey, come check out my plane, stuff like that. So everybody's really open. But I think if I was in there saying, oh yes, my last jet, then sooner or later that house of cards is going to fall, and it's going to be really bad. That's not how you build relationships. I'm just real and honest with people. So if you go in knowing that you can just be yourself, then I think the imposter syndrome doesn't really kick in. I think it just kicks in if you think that you have to be something that you're not.
And you've actually come away with like real live friends from these. Like, you know what I mean? It's not, you're not just like collecting people in your phone. I know in the book you said that you're trying to get the goal, and it doesn't always happen, but the goal is one main connection per event.
Yes, it's one person that you would actually like to see again, that you would actually think might be a good friend, somebody that's compatible with your friendship style, that you think would be a cool person to hang out with. And so it's not like, how can I leverage this person to do something? No, it's just, hey, this seems like a cool person that I would just like to spend more time with and find out more about. And so at these events, yes, I do end up often getting real, legit friends out of it. And that's the goal for me. It's I want a social circle that has all the tiers in it, and I need all the levels. And I find when I go to some of these higher end things, not everybody there is necessarily good for you, but some people they really are driven, and they'll push me to be my best and bring out the best in me. And when you're around people with some good habits, and not everybody at these events has good habits, but some of them do, and if you can have them around you, they're your friends and you're interacting with them, then some of those habits rub off on you, and then that helps everything.
It's like the old, I think you probably mentioned this in the book too, you're the average of the 5 people that you spend the most time around. So what I always say is I try to drag the group down. That's the goal, right? If you're, if you want to, no, just kidding. So what I also like about the book is that it gives you like a game plan for once you enter these events. And the first thing that I notice is like, you don't show up fashionably late, which is, we've all basically been taught that forever. You show up early and you get the lay of the land. And when you think of it, it's like, of course, nobody knows that you were early except maybe the first couple people there. But if you show up late, then you feel like the odd person out, and it's like everybody already has their territory and their ground. And now you're going into something as opposed to letting people come to you, I guess.
Right. Yeah. I think everyone's been somewhere early, and everyone's shown up fashionably late. And especially if you are introverted, it's really weird when you come in late, because if you're not introverted and you're super extroverted, then you can come in, and if you're known already, you come in, hey, everybody, it's me, I've arrived. But most of the time, it's not like that. And especially if you're not known, if everybody there knows you, then yeah, show up whenever. But if you're still trying to make your way in there, then you're going to want to be early, because that gives you a really good advantage on going in, seeing how the layout is, seeing where you want to be so you can be set up. And then as people come in, you're seeing them come in, you can observe, and then you can engage as people come in. It's way easier if you're already settled in than if everyone else is settled in and then you come in and then you have to try to break into somebody's group.
And you never really know who already knows each other. I find myself, so I'm not particularly introverted, but I'm also don't really consider myself an extrovert. I'm like a forced extrovert. I kind of force myself to be like that a little bit, but it's still very difficult for me to go up to people, even at a party, and just start talking. So another thing that I'm going to try out from this book is that how to position yourself. Definitely going to try going early. And then the law of threes, right? So I'm supposed to stand or remind me what this is again. I'm not going to do it justice.
The magic of 3. Yes. It's just when you want to, the group of 3 is the from my experience has been the best that you can do, because if it's just 2 people, if you walk up and you're just talking to one person, then it's hard to, at first, the conversation, there's a lot of burden to both people are trying to keep this thing going, and then you can it gets awkward and weird. Or if the conversation is going and you think, wait, I don't think that I want to be around this person anymore, it's a little harder to leave if there's just the 2 of you there. But if there's three, then that's the perfect balance for the conversation to go. So when somebody's kind of winding down, someone else picks up and you all play off of each other. And then if you need to leave, then you can easily leave because then they're still there with the two and they'll continue talking and you can excuse yourself. And then but if you have four, then usually there's somebody who's just there quiet who gets left out. Four is if you're in a couple, it can kind of work. But if it's just four people there, or if it's one couple and then two individuals, then usually it's going to be, there's someone in that group that's just going to be sitting there not talking. But if there's three, usually everybody will have their opportunity to be seen, to be heard, and express themselves in there. Two is too few. Three is perfect. Four is a little too many, unless there's two couples and somehow, and usually still somebody's going to be the quiet one in there, but sometimes it balances out.
So you figured all this out yourself. Like a lot of it sounds almost like psychological principles that could be studied or maybe already have been studied. Did you like pick any of this up from psychology and then say, oh, I'm going to go try this new tactic? Or was this all sort of like natural, stumbled upon? You know, how much of it was calculated and how much of it like an experiment, like a study, and how much of it was just you trying to get out of the introvert box, I guess?
All of this was just me out there, just observing what was working. So I'd watch other people, because I think a superpower of introverts is observation. So I would spend many evenings out. I'd go out by myself and watch people interact. And so I could see what seems to work when other people are doing it. So I didn't read a textbook or see lab experiments where lab rat A did this and lab rat B did this. And I said, well, humans might be able to do this. No, it was me out just watching people. And then in my own experiences, I would say, okay, so if I was talking to one person, I'd be like, I really want to leave, but how am I supposed to get out of it? Or I could, or if there was the 4 or 5 or more people and I was like, well, this seems like it's a little too much. And then, people are trying to throw their 2 cents in. And then, but with the 3, I always noticed whenever I was in a group of 3, it always balanced out well. And I said, okay, note to self, 3, that's what we're going for. And if there's just 2 of us, then I say, well, let's grab another one. And so I found this to be really helpful in my own experience. I said, let's share this with everybody else so they can benefit from it also.
So I want to try all this stuff out, at an event, and I'm excited to go to an event. But I think sort of the elephant in the room is like this book came out in the middle of COVID. Yeah. I think some things are opening up in some places, but not a lot of events right now. Do I have to wait? Is there like an offline way to do this, or what's the, how do I deal with COVID and trying to put these things to practice?
So that's a very good question. And the answer is that what you can do right now, because things seem to be slowly opening back up, but what you can do while you're waiting is, number 1, you can maintain and kind of reinforce all the relationships you already have first. So go through your email contacts, your work and personal email contacts, go through your phone contacts, maybe your social media contacts, and everybody you haven't touched base with in at least 3 months, make a list. And then you don't have to do it all in one day, but just start chipping away at the list and just say hi. Especially during the COVID, it's a great time to say, hey, how have you been holding up? What's happening with you? It's been a while. I just want to check on you, see how you're doing. And so this just brings you to the top of people's minds, lets them know that you were thinking about them. It's a really nice thing to do. And so I like to do this quarterly, is to reinforce my relationships, make sure that I haven't forgot anybody and I'm still keeping in touch with everybody. And this, during this kind of semi-lockdown period, is a really great time to just reinforce the connections that you already have. And then it's also a great time to, if you're doing the spamming yourself thing, to get your name on some lists. You're sitting at home anyway, get your name on some of those lists. So then when things start to thaw out some more, you'll be ready to get invited, because I'm sure they're going to roll it out, especially a lot of the high-end events are going to be rolling out a lot of stuff to try to make up for lost time. And then also it's a great time to get pre-known, and that is one of the ways to do that is to maybe almost any or event or like meetup group almost always has some kind of online forum. So so like the wine thing, if there was a big wine thing in your area that they had tastings and collectible wines or something like that, there's almost always going to be a chat group, an internet forum of some sort. And so you're going to want to join that, be a part of that, and then first go and observe, see who the big movers and shakers are, who the loudest voices on the chat thing are. And then you're going to want to, chime in on some of their stuff. If there's something they say that you like, let them know that you like that, maybe ask them a question and kind of engage with them. And so you're kind of doing this pre-known, getting yourself familiar with them and them with your name. So they'd say, oh, Joe Jarvis complimented me on this or asked a question. So then during this time, you're just building this little light rapport with them. So then when something does come up after this COVID thing is blown over, then you can say, hey, Jim, hey, Susan, I'm looking forward to seeing you at this thing. And now, instead of just some stranger showing up, now they are expecting to see you. So they'll say, oh yeah, Joe, I look forward to seeing you. Please come up and say hi when you're there. So now when you go in, you are going in with a few people that you don't really know, but you pre-know, and all you have to do is kind of just firm up those relationships. So you're walking in and you're looking for, these people that you interacted with, that you said, I'm going to be looking for you, and they're going to be looking for you too. So then you have that advantage that you built during this downtime to go in and make the most of those situations when they open up.
I think that's what I love about your advice too, is that it's all very intuitive. It's like you hear this and you're like, of course, like, why wouldn't I do that? But I'm not doing it. So yeah. I'm like, why wouldn't I get involved in those groups and chime in more? And so and then other stuff is like, okay, I've done that a little bit in the past, and I can think back and go, oh yeah, that did have really good results. Like, you and I actually met in Lithuania. There was the chat group, and I think some people met up, the night before we all went to this camp, and we met up in public, and there was definitely a dynamic in that chat group. There's definitely people that were the main people that you saw, and they were like well known. They came into it well known. And I was trying to think back as I read this book, and I was like, the first time I met Nick, what was that dynamic? Was he doing this? And all I remember is that like everybody loved you and everybody was like around you all the time. And I was like, why did they like Nick so much? Not like they shouldn't. I was like, I like Nick, like he's cool, but like it just seems like a disconnect between the level of attention that he's getting and everybody else. Like what is it that it's drawing people in? So I have to say, thinking back on it, I was like, wow, he must have been doing these things successfully without me even noticing.
I was doing those things, yes.
Yes. And then the other thing is, one of the things I need to get better at is reaching out to people, because when months later, I hear from you after this camp, and I'm like, oh, like, that's awesome. I'm so glad to hear from Nick. Like, I didn't think I was going to, and here he is, and he clearly values me. So I felt really good about it. And then it makes me want to do that better as well, because now there's all these people that I'm like, I had a good connection with them. I like them. Why haven't I reached out? And so that's another big takeaway for me.
Yes. Awesome. Yeah. I'm glad that worked out. Yes. There's always people that when you leave wherever you were, that you say, I would like to keep in touch with these people. And there's some people that you might not want to, and there's some people that you for sure want to. And, I definitely make lists, and I'll have like a spiral notebook, and I'll say, make sure to touch base with this person, make sure to touch base with this person, because there's certain people that I really enjoy spending time around. And, I don't want to let that connection grow cold, because one thing I say in the book is what I talk about maintaining relationships. what good is doing all this to build these relationships if you're just going to let them just grow cold and you're not going to follow up? It's very important to maintain your relationships, because I think the relationships you have with people are, to me, it's the most important thing in my life. If I lost all my money, but I still had my relationships, I'm still very wealthy. But if I lose all my relationships, but I have some money, then that's just not good at all. So.
It's funny that you say that, because so going back to this camp in Lithuania, it was an entrepreneurship camp that we both attended, and there were some really successful entrepreneurs and businessmen and CEOs, et cetera, there. And I remember, I don't know if you remember this, but the questions that a lot of people would ask these mentors is like, if you were just starting out, what would you do? And they'd say something like, oh, well, they would say something about what they would do from their own particular standpoint right now. It's like, well, if I lost everything, I could raise money this way. And people would be like, no. What if you were like stuck on a desert island? And what it all came back down to is everybody wants to know that first step. How do you start? How do you get going? And the mentors, I remember, always basically came back to, it's like, if you have a network, if you have friends, not like network can be not an intimate word. If you have friends and if you have good people that you surround yourself with, like you said, you can bounce back from almost anything. It would be easier to bounce back from going broke than it would be from losing your reputation, right?
Right. Oh, it's a huge, huge thing. And like I share in the book, I was pretty much, it shows I'm coming up, starting out, because it wasn't like, hey, everything was fine, and then, hey, I just talked to more people. No, things got kind of dark in there, kind of bad. And then I realized, hey, wait a minute, I need to, level up in my social circle and change. It's not like I talk about, changing the people that you're around, but it's not just discarding everybody, and saying, I'm done with all of you, I'm hanging out with these people now. No, you still keep those people around, but you want to, add some people that are doing the sorts of things that you would like to do. If you're interested in something, or if somebody is, this gives you an opportunity to get mentors and things like that, and just have good habits rub off on you, like I said earlier, just by being around people that are in positions that you say, this is something that I'm interested in. I would like to be in a similar position. So I need to have people like that around, so I don't have to guess on how to get there. They're there, and you can just kind of watch and say, well, what do they do? What are they doing? And then I can do more of that and less of what's not taking me in the direction to be in one of those positions.
Yeah. Can you tell me, so you teased this a little bit in the book, and I want to know more about this local celebrity in Brazil, this Nick Shelton as a local celebrity in Brazil. What's going on there?
Oh, I didn't know that you didn't know that story. So
no.
I thought it would be very interesting to, I was planning to do a documentary. And so I said, I'm going to see if it's possible to go to another country and become a local celebrity there. And, pick a city and just become a local celebrity. No one knows you. You just start out and see if you can become a local celebrity. And so went down there and
do you speak Portuguese?
I do not.
Okay.
And I met up with one of our mutual friends down there, and together we went through these steps. And so the issue is that the camera crew that we were supposed to have, they were unreliable, so we missed out on a lot of really good stuff. So it would have been a really fun documentary, but it ended up working out really, really well, and I was able to get that local celebrity status while I was down there. We built it from the ground up, And it was an awesome experience, terrifying at times, but it all worked out in the end.
So
And
you're
so,
like, it's basically like a Kardashian thing. Like you're famous for being famous. Did you, right? Did you have a claim to fame down there? Were you rapping? What were you doing?
I was doing music. I was doing some
Okay.
music stuff down there. And so that's what we used to kind of leverage it up. And we were in a college town. So we said, okay, we just need to have some popular college people kind of get into this, some of the people that everybody follows. And then if they're pushing it, then everybody else will come along too. And we're like, let's see if we can make it work. And yeah, it was wonderful. It was a really
That's
great
interesting.
experience.
I think that's how Tinder got started, was like college parties, and they required it to be downloaded for admission. And then it kind of blew up from there. If I'm remembering that correctly, don't quote me on that, but that's definitely an interesting tactic there. So,
Yeah, so that was supposed to be a documentary that I wanted filmed and then I was going to release because I said this would be an interesting thing to watch. And, I didn't know what was going to happen. We just were like, let's see what happens. And it turned out really well, except for we'd have some footage of certain parts of it, but it's not enough to actually roll out a whole documentary. So we just have some pieces of it, but it was a really great experience. And that
well, it
might
sounds
be
like you need
a
a
book
return.
for another time.
Yeah, you need a return
I,
trip to see, did the celebrity last? Maybe it's spread all throughout Brazil now. Maybe you're.
I I probably would have heard if it was all throughout Brazil, but I think it's just in that one city. And but yes, I will return because it's a great place. The people there were very, very good to me. I am forever in their debt. I am very grateful to them. It was a really good
Yeah. What was another thing is that maybe this speaks something negative about me, but I was like waiting for a spectacular failure in the book. I almost wanted to be like, he couldn't have had just this much success. It's 20 years. Like, you must have had some failures, and maybe maybe that's not something you want to talk about, and you don't have to if you don't want to. But I'm kind of like interested. I'm like, was it ever super awkward at these events? You just like went out and tried to get to know people, and it was just like total failure.
basically the book I was just showing. I didn't want to write a book about, hey, here's some ways that you could fail at
Right.
communication, because people usually know how to do that, but I just wanted to show how things can work. But yes, it wasn't all wine and roses. There were some failures along the way, especially in the 20-year span. But the farther I get into it, then the less failures that I have. But it's still from time to time, but I don't have any spectacular failures. Recently, there might be some spectacular ones like farther in the past, because now I know how to, have my backup plans and safety nets, and so it's a lot easier now. But there's certain things, just like one of the examples in the book, where when I walked into the event and I walked in a little late, and then I said, "Oh, okay, none of the stuff that I tell people to do, none of that applies to this situation." And then I said, "I really want to leave. I really want to just leave." But I said, "No, I got to stay and figure this out." And so a lot of times nowadays, instead of just chalking it up as a failure and just leaving, I say, I'm going to figure this out. I have to stay and figure it out. And also, some of my students, some of my clients, they might say, hey, this is a situation. What would I do in this situation? And if it's a situation that I haven't been in before, then I say, let me put myself in that situation. So first I'll try to imagine it, but then if I can't, then I'll say, I'll just go out and I'll try to physically be in that situation. And then when I'm in there, I will see, well, let's see what you do here. And then once I figure it out, then I'll say, okay, here's what you do. Here's how it works. But so nowadays, there's many times where I feel like just leaving. I say, I just want to leave. But at the same time, I sit there and I figure it out. So there's no super spectacular failures that I left out of the book or anything like that. There just might be some minor stuff. And there have been times where I have left, where I have been to like company picnic sort of things out in the summer, and I go and I walk around a bit and I say, okay, well, I'm not feeling it. I'm just going to leave. And I have left. So that does happen from time to time. So it's not like I always show up, hey, everybody, and do my thing. There's some times where I might just be like, this isn't my thing. I'm going to go. But, these days, that's not often. It's very rare that I do that. Most of the time I say, well, I'm here. I might as well get something out of it. Might as well learn something while I'm here. Let's do something. Let's either go over some of the basics like that are in the book, or let me see if I can learn something new, put myself in a new situation to figure out.
Yeah. And it seems like it would be harder in like the company picnic situation where a lot, everybody there already knows each other, and maybe you're coming into it not knowing anybody there. I mean, is that more difficult, or is it in some ways easier because then you kind of have everybody that you could talk to? I don't know.
Right. There's kind of two sides of the coin to that. So if you know a bunch of people there, then that's one thing that it helps ease the situation. Then so you can talk to them, and then there's some acquaintances or people that you've seen at the workplace that you can say, well, I barely know that person. I've just seen them a couple times, but now is my opportunity to go and learn more about them. So that's a good thing. But also if you go to someone else's company picnic and you don't know anyone, then that's cool too, because then you can do stuff that you might not be able to do at your own company picnic. So for example, I would never dance at a company picnic where I know everybody. But if I go to your company picnic, then I'm probably going to dance because I'm like, hey, they don't know me. I can dance here. It's fine.
All right. That makes sense. Again, getting back to what I talk about on my channel and in my articles is power. And there's a lot of these like really bad people out there with a lot of power. And so I don't think power is a zero-sum game. I think you can grow your own spheres of power. So then when I hear things like, when I hear the title like World Domination, that gets me, and it's sort of a joke, I think maybe. And then there's another thing in there that gets me with the whole royalty power is the Duke cookie face. So you are pretending or acting like you're a Duke, and you smell cookies, and that and can you explain to me how that is going to position you in a position of power at an event?
Well, I don't know if it's a position of power. It makes you look calm, confident, and approachable while you're there. And so, because someone that we both mutually know had said to me, I wish I could see myself in a situation. I wish I could see what I look like, to see if I look approachable, to see if I look confident. Is my posture okay? But I can't. And I said, well, how can you do that? And I was I was dating a lovely girl at the time, and I went to a company holiday party. And so she knew everyone. I didn't know anybody there except for her. And I knew, how these things work. I knew that everyone was going to be curious on who she brought. And I know they're all going to be looking at me, but I don't know when they're looking at me. I know they're going to kind of size me up and judge from whatever they see me doing. And so I said, well, what can I do to make sure that I'm giving off the right vibe? And so I said, well, how do I sit? Well, then I said, okay, if you're like a noble, so if you're a duke or something, then, the duke wouldn't just be all slouched up, and, they would, whenever you see some nobles, they always look like
they've got it under control.
Yeah, it's not like super stiff. They're just kind of, And so I said, okay, so if I have that same posture, so at least I'm, have a good frame. And then so my face, I don't want, resting bastard face or anything where it looks like a bad piece of candy. I said, I need to have I can't be like grinning like I'm crazy and going to like kill everybody. So I said, okay, so if I walk into my best friend's house and I smell fresh baked cookies, I know I'm going to be offered cookies. I love cookies. So, I'm not going to go, oh, cookies. I just kind of have a quiet, like, hey, cookies. And so I just said, so if I have that body posture of the Duke, and then I have my, like, hey, cookies are coming, expectation, then whoever's looking at me at any time, because I don't know when they're looking at me, they're going to say, wow. So I'm not slouching and just like, when is this going to be over? No, I'm there. I look like I got the sparkle in my eye because, hey, cookies are coming, right? And so I got the sparkle, I got the good posture. So then when people are looking, they say, wow, he looks interested. He looks like he's engaged in what's going on, and he looks friendly. And then so people come up and talk. And so that also helps so that I don't have to go out and be like, hey, everybody, it's me. I'm just there looking like, hey, I'm receptive. And so people come up and talk to me. Way easier that way than me going and trying to talk to all these other people. So then, at the end of this, she said, everybody really loved you. And I only talked to maybe 4 or 5 people, but everybody else who was just kind of watching, they drew their conclusions and said, hey, yeah, he seems like an okay guy. Just because I wasn't like nudging her, when are we going? Oh, I just ate a bad piece of candy. And, I'm feeling bloated and I'm just kind of here. No, and I wasn't on my phone messing around. I was there with the Duke cookie face. And so that gives you, anyone who does it, and men and women, the Duchess cookie face, anyone who does it, it really makes them, it's a really cool look. You get this little glow. And I've been around the world and I've told people, I'll say, I'm going to the bathroom. When I come back, I want you to be doing it. And I'm going to watch you. When I come back from the bathroom, I'm going to see how you look. And everybody who does it, they look magnificent whenever they do it. I'm like, yes, like this. This is
so
awesome.
You've never seen anybody like really screw it up and you're like, ooh, okay. Not a good look.
I've thought about that, but I've never seen anyone screw it up. But I tell people, you can practice in the mirror, kind of see what your cookie face looks like. And so with your sitting, you should be able to figure that out, but you kind of want to see what your cookie face looks like. But if you don't have a mirror, then you can still just imagine that you're walking into your best friend's house. Say you like cookies. If you hate cookies, then
it's not going to work.
But if you're going to your best friend's house, there's going to be some cookies offered up soon, and then you'll have it. You'll be there, and so then you don't need to be able to see yourself to know that you look approachable and calm and confident. You will be able to feel it because you know that everything is right.
And I think the feeling it part of it is super important because then you're in the right mindset, in the right mind frame. And I feel like I've like put certain clothes on before and just not liked them or something and gone out and been like, it felt awkward and I didn't feel like what I wanted to feel like. And that's actually another thing you mentioned is the clothing that you should wear. You shouldn't blend in, right? Because that's what, it's like, oh, what is everybody else wearing? Like I should wear that. But that's not always the best advice.
Right. Because you are there to meet people and you want to be remembered. And if you blend in, then you're not going to be remembered. You want to stand out and have something about you that stands out. So, naturally your personality should stand out, but you need some help also. So there's certain things that I'll do. Like I have a yellow belt that, there's no reason for me to wear. It doesn't go with my outfit. So if I have the yellow belt on, then people will say, hey, that guy with the yellow belt, because, it's not like I have yellow shoes and a yellow hat or anything. It's just this yellow belt. And so it's something that kind of stands out. So I say, you can have some kind of accent item, like, I got these yellow bracelets. I like yellow. So there's an accent item will help people, because when I meet people, usually I will notice something about them. And if everything blends in, then I'm like, okay, now I have to find something else. But if they have, and one of the stories I tell in the book is about a guy that had a tucked in Hawaiian shirt, and I'd never seen anyone do that before. And it wasn't like a tropical themed thing. There was no reason to have a Hawaiian shirt. And I said, what's up with that guy? Why is he? But, and he was a decent person. And I never asked about the shirt. That would have been a conversation over like, well, what's up with the shirt? But I will remember that guy, even if he doesn't wear the shirt. If I see him, and I have seen him again since that, and I'm like, that's that guy. That's the guy with the
maybe he's a Boogaloo boy. The Boogaloo Boys. Am I saying it right? The Hawaiian shirt I heard is now a symbol that you're ready to join the revolution.
Oh,
How long
well,
ago was this?
I don't think this was about a year ago, or
Okay.
maybe a year and a half ago. So I don't
Yeah.
think that he didn't strike me as that type. I think he was like a IT computer guy. And so I don't think that he was doing any revolutionary stuff. He
You
was
got to be
just,
careful these days with your symbolism, right? You never know what people say is what people say says more about you than you realize. But
right.
no, I'm just yeah. He probably wasn't an anonymous hacker or anything like that.
Probably not.
Yeah. So this is again, I'm super excited to start using some of this, and again, not using it in the sense of like calculating like how am I going to take advantage of the situation, because I know you also had an anecdote in the book about that where it was like very obvious that this woman was running around trying to find the person that was going to advance her, and that was like a major turnoff, right?
Yes. Yes, that was horrible. I always tell people, because I see it happen all the time. In any sort of event, there's always somebody in there that you say, oh, this person is doing that. And I think that most people can pick up on that and they notice that. And I'm pretty sure that it turns most people off. But a lot of people think that that's how you network. But my approach is, once again, not just saying, who can help me in my business? Because you don't know who knows what and who they might know that might be able to help you. You don't know. But so instead of just trying to say, who can help me? I just say, who's a cool person that I'd like to actually be friends with? And so I start there. And they might not be able to help me with my business at all. I don't care about that. I want to actually meet cool and interesting people. And so that's first. And then later on, because I am not big into trying to know, what do you do? What do you do? I say, don't ask people that. So there's people that it takes many months for me to even figure out what they do. There's one guy that I met, what was it, probably 7 years ago. I still don't know what he does. And I've spent a lot of time around him. I'm like, I don't really know. But it's just one of those things where I want a cool person. I want to hang out with some cool people. And then, friends help friends. So if one of my friends, if I hear they have a project and they're doing something and I know something about that, or if I know somebody who knows something about that, then I'll say, hey, did you need any help with that? I happen to know about this, and I'll just volunteer it up because they're my friend. And then the same with, with me, if I need help with something, usually I will just say, this is what I'm working on. And then either somebody will just say, oh, I know something about that, or they won't. And I normally don't say, hey, you should come help me, because, if somebody wants to help out, that's fine. If not, that's fine too.
There.
Yeah. But, I just let people know what I'm working on, let people know my interests. Like one of the things I say in the book is, tell people what you're interested in, because people bond over stuff like that. Like I like sailboats, I like cigars and Manhattans and stuff. And so if somebody else likes those same things, then now we've opened up a conversation, and it's not just about business. It's about, hey, we like sailboats, so let's go sailing. So, if I'm in town and I see you, then that's going to be one of the things that I say, hey, we should probably go take a boat out or something, because that's what I enjoy doing. And anyone who also enjoys doing that, they'd be like, yeah. And so either they might invite me or I might invite them, because one of the things that I say in the book is I'm not going by myself. There's certain things that, even with, cigars and Manhattans, I would rather have cigars and Manhattans with somebody who's one of my friends than just, well, I'm just going to sit by myself and on a boat and have a cigar and a Manhattan.
Right.
It's all about those relationships.
I think that's what another big takeaway is, that it has to be natural. You can't force it. And then once you have that network of actual friends, then, like you said, put an idea out there, and then people naturally come to you. And that's that kind of self-selecting that you do at parties as well, or at events as well, is that you do act like yourself, because then you're self-selecting for the type of people that are going to like you and like being around you. And if you try to pretend you're somebody you're not, then you're going to get a bunch of people that don't actually, that you're not actually going to work well together because they think you're somebody that you're not. So I think that's that's a good point. So, well, this has been a lot of fun, very enlightening. Like I said, love the book. That's An Introvert's Guide to World Domination. There it is. Perfect. Yes. And what's the subtitle again? I keep messing that one up.
Become a high-level networker and upgrade your life.
Good. I like it. So, yeah. Anything else you wanted to add before we take off?
Anyone that's interested in what we've talked about, please check out the book. It's available on Amazon.
All right. Thanks so much.
Thank you for having me. It's been an honor and a pleasure.